Hello everybody, 𝗓𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 make something a bit more chill, something that you guys can throw on in the background and listen to while you work, eat, sleep, and just kind of do whatever. Today, I'm going to be reading the prologue chapter to the Five Nights at Freddy's alternate universe that I have been working on since April of 2024. Before we begin, it's worth mentioning that the whole point of this AU is to kind of revive and reinstate a lot of old school fan theories that we had back in 2014 and 2015. The reason for this being because sometimes fan theories just end up being a lot more interesting than what we actually get. Additionally, as with most AUs, I decided to sprinkle in some of my own little headcanons and personal preferences to things here and there, just to kind of add that spice, you know? Some other things to take note of is the fact that this AU primarily blends together the story of the first 3 Freddy's games with the original Silver Eyes novel, as well as some key details here and there from the Freddy's movies. It does pull bits and pieces here and there from Five Nights at Freddy's 4, but a lot of events that happen in that game are either changed significantly or completely omitted. Also, any references to characters or events from future games, like Sister Location, Pizzeria Simulator, Security Breach, Secret of the Mimic, are nothing more than just that. References. Aside from a few characters of my choosing, they don't really hold a whole lot of relevancy to this new universe, so please keep that in mind moving forward. Anywho, apologies for the long intro. I just wanted to take this time to sort of clarify and explain some things about this AU, that way you guys know kind of what to expect when going into this. Without wasting any more time, let's jump right into the prologue chapter of Five Nights at Freddy's Back to Formula. October 31st, 1983. The moon was glowing bright in the night sky over the town of New Harmony, and there were just a few hours left until Fredbear and Friends Diner had to close down for the night. Inside the diner, kids could be seen running around the restaurant, playing with one another while their parents talked amongst themselves. The diner's yellow-furred mascots, Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, were doing their usual performances on stage, and near the entrance, there was a large white and purple gift box, just big enough for a person to fit inside. Every few minutes, the lid of the box would lift upward, and a pair of glowing green eyes peered out to observe the customers and ensure that nothing was wrong. On the opposite end of the diner was the manager's office, where the 2 restaurant owners, Henry Emily and William Afton, could be found. William appeared to be filing some papers, while Henry was sketching some schematics for potential animatronic mascots. After a bit, William set aside the papers he was working on and stretched his back, letting out a soft yawn as he did so.
"Another successful day of bringing fantasy and fun to life, eh, Henry?" William asked, a grin of satisfaction stretched across his face. Out of the 2 men, he was typically seen as the more robust and lively one, with his somewhat energetic personality fitting perfectly with Spring Bonnie, the character he played when the mascots were in costume mode. "Indeed it has been, my friend. Indeed it has been," Henry chuckled, his tone warm and cheerful. Unlike his business partner, Henry was a bit more mellowed out, often getting lost in his own thoughts as he daydreamed about whatever mechanical creations he had planned. However, that didn't stop him from putting on a show for customers when dressed as Fredbear, especially when it came to performing for his own children. Suddenly, the door slammed open as a young girl ran inside the room and hid behind William. The girl seemed terrified as streams of tears ran down her cheeks, her whole body shaking like a leaf.
"Dad, Mike and his friends were scaring me again," she cried, sniffling through her words as she clung to her father for dear life. Upon hearing this, William let out a soft groan, as this was perhaps the 100th time this had happened.
"Honestly, how many times do I have to tell that boy to stop tormenting his sister?" William sighed, picking up the girl to comfort her.
As if on cue, another figure appeared in the doorway, a teenage boy wearing a red fox mask and a gray shirt with the sleeves torn off. He stood with a devilish grin splitting his face, but the expression quickly faded at the sight of his father. William glared at the boy, clearly not amused. "Well, speak of the devil, there's the troublemaker now." The boy hesitated for a moment, then slowly he lifted the fox mask to reveal his face to his father's stern expression. "Hey, Dad," he began, making sure to choose his words carefully. The last thing he needed was to upset his father any further. How's everything going? If you keep tormenting your sister, Michael, I'm taking that mask and I'm throwing it away. This is your very last warning, William scolded, keeping his voice level as he made sure to get his point across. Do you understand me? Mike took a step back, clutching his mask tightly in his hands. He nodded his head, not saying another word, and he glared at his younger sister before storming out of the room. Not long after, another girl, around the same age as William's daughter, came and stood where Michael just was. She had neck-length brunette hair, brown doe eyes, and she wore a light green dress.
Hey, Liz. I heard your brother was picking on you again, so I drew you something to cheer you up, the girl said, smiling warmly at William's daughter. Upon seeing her friend, Elizabeth seemed to stop crying immediately, wiping her cheeks of any tears that remained, and she tugged her father's sleeve as a signal to be let down. As Elizabeth's feet touched the floor, she walked up to the other girl and accepted the drawing. It was a picture of the two of them posing next to the yellow bear that performed on the stage in the other room. She smiled at the drawing, hugging it close to her chest. Thank you, Charlotte. I'll be sure to hang it on my wall when I get home, Elizabeth said, smiling as she spoke.
Charlotte always seemed to know just how to help Elizabeth feel better, whether it be drawing pictures for her or the two of them just playing with their plush toys together. It was honestly quite fortunate that their fathers worked together. Charlotte then took Elizabeth's hand and led her back into the dining area, presumably to play or watch the animatronics perform. The two men both smiled as they watched their kids walk out of the room, William feeling his tension drain upon seeing his daughter's mood improved. It was moments like this that made him feel grateful for his friendship with Henry, as the two of them had known each other since college. They both used to study acting and overall theater production, and they properly met when William saw Henry sketching out character concepts for the mascots they'd come to know, love, and perform as to this day. Since then, the two men have made it their duty to, as William put it earlier, bring fantasy and fun to life. Then, after a moment of reminiscing, William brought his mind back to the present and sat back down, returning to the papers he was working on previously. In the main dining area, Elizabeth and Charlotte could be seen watching the animatronics performing for everyone there. Fredbear singing into his microphone, and Spring Bonnie laughing along while tapping their foot. Over in the other room, Elizabeth could see other animatronics performing as well. These ones were somewhat newer than the Golden Duo, and were based on the characters first seen in the cartoon she'd always watched before school. First up was Freddy Fazbear, who was almost identical to Fredbear, only he had brown fur instead of yellow, and his eyes were bright blue instead of dark brown. To the left of Freddy stood Bonnie the Bunny, a blue-furred rabbit with long whiskers, a neat red bow tie, and chipped pink eyes. He held a guitar with a black and red trapezoidal body, which he was strumming to the beat of the song being played. Then, over to the right, stood Chica the Chicken, a yellow chicken animatronic with an orange beak and matching legs, violet eyes, and a white confetti-covered bib that read "Let's Eat" in bold letters. In her hand, she held a plated cupcake companion named Mr. Cupcake, who had pink frosting, yellow eyes, and 2 buck teeth. Craning her neck a little more, Elizabeth spotted one more show stage off to the side in that same room, with sparkly purple curtains drawn back to reveal a 4th animatronic. This mascot, named Foxy the Pirate, was a red-furred fox who had brown cargo shorts, yellow eyes, a black eye patch, silver hook, and several sharp teeth. Foxy's stage was decorated to be pirate-themed, complete with a wooden steering wheel, a treasure chest, and Captain Quarter's backdrop. Foxy was the one that Mike loved the most, always wearing a mask of the pirate fox around the house. Charlotte noticed Elizabeth staring at the newer Fazbear band and smiled, gently nudging her shoulder.
You want to go check out the other characters, Liz?
Charlotte asked, nodding her head towards the other room. Elizabeth looked back for a moment, then nodded in agreement. Charlotte took her hand once more, this time in a much more excited manner, and led her over to the other showroom. As they went, however, Elizabeth saw the large gift box by the entrance open all the way up, and another animatronic emerged from within. It was a tall, slender figure, similar to that of a sock puppet, with an all-black body, white face and chest buttons, painted red cheeks and lipstick, and glowing green eyes. The puppet scanned the dining room for a moment, its eyes sweeping across all the different customers watching the performance, then made its way outside the diner for an unknown reason. Elizabeth didn't think to question it, as it may have just been a part of its programming. Another hour went by, and it was finally time to lock up shop and close the diner for the night. Charlotte and Elizabeth were still watching the Fazbear Band finish up their performances. Michael was saying goodbye to his friends, making plans to hang out again the next day, and Henry and William were thanking everyone for dropping by. Henry walked over and knelt beside Elizabeth and Charlotte, asking where Sammy, Charlotte's twin brother, had wandered off to, but neither of them knew. They hadn't seen him since they got there earlier that same afternoon. Henry felt his anxiety grow, and he rushed over to inform William of what had happened. The two of them began searching the diner for the young boy, and it wasn't long before Henry soon realized that the security puppet was nowhere to be seen as well. He went back to the office and tracked the animatronic's location, following the signal into the back alleyway.
And with that, we end the prologue chapter. Thank you guys so much for listening to this. If you guys would like me to read more chapters of my AU, please let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts, especially regarding the story that I have crafted thus far. I also want to give a massive shout out to 8-Bit Gaming, aka 8-Bit Ryan and 𝗙𝗟𝗡, because without their old theory videos from back in the day, I don't think I would have gotten the inspiration to craft the story that I have as of right now. Especially when it comes to what I have planned for my take on Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Because like I said at the beginning of the video, although bits and pieces are being adapted from the official Five Nights at Freddy's 4, obviously not everything is going to be, like certain characters, which you may have noticed while I was reading the prologue. When it comes to what I have planned for Five Nights at Freddy's 4, it's going to primarily be based around certain theories and predictions about what the game was going to be prior to its release. And, who knows, maybe if I lock in hard enough, then someday I'll turn it into a fan game. We'll see. Anywho, thanks again for watching. If you guys do enjoy what you see, please like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell all right down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. See yas!